let me take you to something else, but staying in Kaduna State.
Yeah.
Is there any validity to the argument that the government is having challenges with not just the capital projects which you alluded to earlier on, but even the recurrent expenditure, the issue of payment of salaries? Many of your colleagues, for example, are simply not able to muster enough resources to make timely payments of salaries. And then now there's the added burden of what is coming as the minimum wage. What's your position? Because you've been, some would say, uncharacteristically silent.
No. Because you see, first of all, I want to remind Nigerians that when President Buhari's government came into being, 3/4 of all the states in the Federation were distressed. They are unable to pay salaries as and when due. 27 out of 36 states were distressed. That's why he had to bail out states. Fortunately for Kaduna State, we were not one of the 27. We were one of the 9 that could pay salaries comfortably. So I did not inherit any salary arrears from the PDP government, and we kept on paying salaries. But I remember the first month we came into office, after we paid salaries, we had something like 300 million naira left over to run the state and pay for capital commitments. And that's when we knew that we were in trouble and we had to undertake drastic reforms. Okay? I have been silent because, you know, this state pays its salaries without fail by the 25th of each month. We've done that consistently for the past two and a half years. If you see us miss payment of salaries, by the end of the month, 30th or 31st, we will pay without any doubt. That's the state government. But our local governments were distressed when we came in. We have 23 local governments. 8 of them needed us to pay them a supplement before they are able to pay salaries. 8 out of 23.
Which means that nothing is left for capital. They can't be even discussing capital.
Precisely. They just cover their salaries and that's it. And out of the 23, as I said, 8 actually required supplement. So we also realized in the local government system, we have to do a holistic review and find out what's going on. Because there is no local government in Nigeria that gets less than 100 million a month from Federation account. And if that 100 million is not enough to cover its own salaries, then there is a problem. And we needed to find out what the problem was. And we looked into that. Now, where are we today? Today, in Kaduna State, people would say they have not been paid their salaries. If you have not been paid your salary, it is either you are a ghost worker, so we've removed you from the payroll. Second, maybe you are a local government employee. Or third, you are a primary school teacher that has been removed from payroll. These are the only 3 classes of people that can say they have not been paid their salaries. There are a few cases in which your salary doesn't get paid because your bank account or BVN do not match or things like that. But other than that, we don't have any issue paying salaries. And as I said, within these 2 to 3 years, we've undertaken fundamental reforms in the state public service, both at the state level and local government level. Today, I want to proudly say that every local government in Kaduna State is solvent. Okay? There is no local government in Kaduna State that after the payment of teachers' salaries and their own staff salaries does not walk away with something in the region of 50 million naira. So they are now able to do capital projects. And it is because of the reforms we undertook in the last 2.5 years. Some of them quite painful, some of which we are being blamed for, but we knew that it was the right thing to do because it cannot be the intention of the framers of the Constitution that local governments and state governments exist only to pay salaries. Okay, now coming to the last point you made about the new minimum wage. There has been ongoing discussion on this. In my view, we all agree that what we pay government workers is inadequate to cover their expenses. That is why you find that many of them engage in petty trading, some engage in farming, and so on and so forth to supplement their income. So yes, there is a need to look at the minimum wage. But if you look at the minimum wage, you must also look at the capacity to pay. You cannot impose on a state government a wage level that exceeds its sustainable revenues. So there has to be an ongoing conversation in which both sides have to understand each other. And at the end of the day, if there is no such conversation, there will be problems. Because as I said, at the 18,000 naira minimum wage, when President Buhari's government came into office, 27 states were unable to pay. I know 1 or 2 states that have never implemented the 18,000 minimum wage. They still pay the 6 or 12,000. Okay? So now when you raise it to 30, you have to do a sensitivity analysis to establish what is the impact on that on the federal government. In fact, I challenge the Minister of Finance to say, what are you doing about the minimum wage? Because I know for sure, every month, the federal government issues bonds, okay, sells bonds on the capital market just to pay salaries. The revenues of the federal government do not even cover the salaries of the public servants of the federation. That is why our entire capital budget is borrowed. So why are you raising the minimum wage when your sustainable revenues on a monthly basis cannot cover your salaries and overheads? And what is the solution? To me, the solution is very clear. We either need to sit down with labor unions and make them understand that you cannot exist as government, whether federal, state, or local government, simply to pay salaries. The purpose of government is beyond paying salaries of a few. The purpose of government must be to invest in the future, to invest in education, healthcare, infrastructure, so that the economy will grow, creating jobs and securing the future of our children. If you only pay salaries of civil servants and you sit there, education and others are not funded, we are going to end up in perdition. So this is a conversation that must take place. And in Kaduna State, we've already set up a pay reform committee that has been working in the last 1 year to look at the levels of pay and see what can be done to raise the levels of pay. But we're only able to do that because we have trimmed down the size of our public service. Okay? We have significantly reduced the numbers that we don't need. Because, for instance, I came into the government house and found that we still had typists cadre. Who does typing these days? Everyone uses a computer. And nobody needs a typist because virtually every officer types his own letters and so on. So you don't need typists. So we abolished the cadre and declared all the typists in this public service redundant. So there are many such cadres that need to be declared redundant, bring in fresh young blood into the civil service to strengthen it. That's what we've done in Kaduna State. And because of that, our numbers have shrunk a little bit to what we think we need. We have got rid of 4,000 employees, but we've hired 1,200 health workers. This is an area of need. We needed more nurses, more midwives, and health workers, and we employed them.
Because at the time you came in, there were only 156 doctors.
Absolutely. There are only 156 doctors in the state, and there are less than 200 midwives and less than 500 nurses. Today, we have 1,200 nurses and midwives in Kaduna State. So, and we have hired many more doctors. We have over 200 doctors now. Now, we did all that because often in the public service, it's not just the numbers that don't make sense. It is the fact that you have a large number of people that you don't really need, while there are areas of need, like teachers, health workers that you need, but you don't have enough of. And unless you get rid of those that you don't need, you'll not have the fiscal space to be able to hire those that you need. We've done that in Kaduna. We're comfortable. We are doing sensitivity analysis and scenarios around a minimum wage of 30,000 naira. We may even implement it before the act is passed if we are sure that we can bear it. You know, that is the numbers times the pay equals something that is sustainable, taking into account our remittances from Federation account as well as internally generated revenue. The committee is submitting its report at the end of this month, and our hope is that we may be able to start on a new minimum wage before the end of January.